Yeah.
Well, in the interest of time, let's go ahead and get started. We do have a few folks here and some more maybe trickle in, but they'll get the recording nonetheless. So quickly to welcome everybody into our webinar. I think everybody has now been admitted. Happy New Year, first of all, to our viewers and our participants. This is the first Coffee with Kim of the new year, and I'm excited to start a whole new list of topics as we roll through each month of the year. So be sure to follow along with what we're doing each month. If they're going to be a little more specialized, perhaps than they were last year, to kind of focus in on different areas of admission and college life. But we're just excited to be back. It's been a fun run. We started this last spring when the world was screeching to a halt, and it became a very good source of providing, at that time it was weekly updates and information. But again, this year, in the new year, we're gonna go with a monthly plan. And so I hope that everybody will continue to tune in. So I wanna quickly go ahead and turn it over to you all, my esteemed guests, and let you introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit, obviously, where you're from and how long perhaps you've been in that position, and maybe a little bit about your background, and then we'll dive in. So we'll start with Monica. How about that? I'll go around my screen.
Perfect. We'll do the least experienced first. So my name is Monica Rosman. I'm an admissions counselor at Clemson University. I'm also a graduate of Clemson, and I graduated a little over 3 years ago. I've been in this position for the most part ever since. I did briefly work with another institution, and then when this position opened up, I could not resist applying, because if you've ever met someone from Clemson, chances are you've experienced that Clemson people love Clemson. While I was a student at the university, I was involved in the Honors College pretty heavily. I was a resident assistant for the Honors College. I maintained a really strong mentorship role in that, and I still talk to a lot of the students I worked with through that capacity on pretty much a daily basis. I also established most of the strong friendships I have from Clemson through my membership in the Honors College, so it's something I'm really, really passionate about. So I'm excited to share a little bit more today.
Thank you. Dr. Brian?
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to say, first of all, congratulations on being an RA, because I think you're always going to be an RA. It's like one of the best leadership positions you can have on campus. I firmly believe that. So just as a shameless plug for housing guys, the housing folks everywhere. My name is Ross Bryan. I am the Assistant Dean and Associate Professor here in the Honors College at the University of Alabama. I'm from a little town called Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. I've been at the university since 2005. I took a small hiatus in 2011 and went to a place called Tulane University and worked there for 4 years, but I came back for this position in the spring of 2015. I love it. I bound out of bed to come to work in the morning. I think that what we get to do is really, really important as it relates to buttressing what people are doing in their colleges or in their degrees. I think the Honors College is a really nice augmentation of some of those things, because I firmly believe that we in the Honors College are creating public intellectuals and or agents of positive social change. I want to qualify both of those, because one sounds like rainbows, unicorns, and puppy dog kisses, and one sounds like an elite paramilitary organization. The public intellectuals, I firmly believe that if you graduate from the University of Alabama and the Honors College, the expectation is that you're going to do that work in a public way to improve the community or context you find yourself in. Agent of positive social change. I know what I think needs to change about this world. Believe me when I tell you that. I'm not talking about taking that and putting it on you. That's called indoctrination. That's a whole different conversation. But in the Honors College, we give you the curricular and co-curricular experiences, the out-of-classroom learning to develop agency within yourself so you can act the change you'd like to see in your community or context. It is a great job. I love it. I get to recruit as a part of my job, and then I'm also in the classroom as well. And I wish everybody had a job they loved as much as I love mine.
Wonderful.
All right, I think I'm up next. So my name is Jennifer Lee Sputz, and I'm Associate Vice Provost for Enrichment Programs and Director of the Honors Program at the University of Connecticut. I have been at UConn for 18 years. And as someone who graduated from the Honors College at the University of Arkansas, and then got my PhD in counseling, human development, and college administration and gifted education at the University of Georgia, the fact that I have survived up north for 18 years is a testament to how fantastic this job is. So I spent my first 7 years at UConn as an associate director in honors and also director of the Office of Undergraduate Research. So I maintained both those roles, and then took a brief hiatus myself, but only skipped across to the next building to be a faculty member for a few years, and then was drawn right back into honors, which is my first love and true love for the position I have now. So I've been in this role for 9 years, almost 9 years. So it's been fantastic. I agree, it's the best job that there is on campus. People tell me all the time I have the best job on campus, and I say, yes, shh, don't tell anyone. Let's keep that to ourselves. So really excited to be able to talk more about what non-honors education can do for students, and share with great colleagues here today. So
wonderful. Thank you all so much. I'm so excited about our diversity of experiences in this group. This is wonderful. So, well, let's dive right in then. And I'm going to turn it over to whoever wants to go first, to be honest with you. And let's talk about that idea, Dr. Butts, that you were just hinting at, is about what is that experience like for students in an honors program, because it obviously sets them apart in some way from the general population.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I always stress to students when I'm talking to any prospective student is that that what we really offer is an honors education. So what I mean by that is, yes, you can take classes and you can do things that are that challenge you and provide rigor, and lots of college students do that. In fact, the classes at UConn that are not honors are plenty rigorous and challenging. But what we set about to do is really frame an experience for students around talent development, around creative productivity, and around leadership. So we've got, our requirements are all built on a theoretical framework that we built based on years of research on gifted education and what makes for highly productive, also highly happy and fulfilled citizens, which is really important to us. And the idea of an honors education, which is different than educating honors students, is that you are really coming to this for a particular type of learning experience. That's very important to me, because we have multiple avenues by which you can join honors at UConn. We're really looking for students who want this particular educational experience, and it's not necessarily just the students who are chosen when they're admitted to UConn, right? Who were invited to join our program as freshmen. So there are many entry points. Students can curate their experience in a variety of ways, and that there are 2 types of honors awards that they can achieve. But it's really about a qualifyingly different experience. The other thing I like to mention, and this is what I think is really a true benefit of honors at a large university, is that you are part of a larger university. I always tell students, you don't walk around with a scarlet H on your chest. Like no one knows, unless you tell them, or you're part of it. So I think for some students, there's this desire to not be in a fishbowl of really bright students, which they experienced a lot in high school, and not wanting to, I don't know, feel isolated, right, from the rest of the college campus. And that's absolutely not the case. It's one of the, again, great benefits of going to a school that creates a smaller environment for you, that provides context and structure, and students who are very much like you as intellectual peers, but also very different from you in terms of their background and their experiences and what they're interested in studying. And that combination of things, I think, is really why you see students who love their experience, who feel very connected and identify with honors, much like Monica was talking about earlier, that it's very much part of their UConn identity. But I think it's, it really is, it's about the type of education you want to achieve and attain. And so students who are really being thoughtful about that, about what they want their academic experience to be like, and what skills and talents they want to have developed at the end of their college career, I think are the ones who are very well suited to honors and tend to, you know, really maximize the whole experience.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Brian?
can I pick up on that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I really appreciate those comments, and I think you're exactly right. I'd like to add to them in some way, or try to weave in a couple things. One is, you know, there's lots of great places out there. There's lots of great colleges and universities. There's lots of great honors colleges. There's lots of great programs. I mean this when I say I'm glad we're on this panel, because I have a ton of respect for what UConn does. I have a ton of respect for what Clemson does, and I have a ton of respect for even the University of Arkansas, what they are doing, because that's a really interesting. So part of why I say that is because my take on it is that honors colleges and programs aren't always the same. You know, like they're kind of apples and oranges in some ways. And so I'm not trying to say that one's better than the other, but I front load that because when I recruit students, and when I'm recruiting students like today, what I would say, the big message is, you know, think about why you're going to college, university. I wish I could go back in time and ask my 18-year-old self, why are you going? Are you going to get a job? That's a good reason to go to college, university. Are you going to become an enlightened citizen, which would warm my heart like you don't even know? Are you going so you don't live in your parents' basement in 4 to 6 years? Those are all good reasons to go to college and university, but why are you going? And I encourage them to have that conversation on the way home with their parental units, or get under their favorite tree in their favorite park and really think about it, because it's important. How are you going to take advantage of the opportunities that you're going to have at places like that we offer? And what would you like to become as it relates to what Dr. Butts was talking about in terms of the citizenry, right? Like, who do you want to become? We're going to have an influence in that at colleges and universities, and we're going to have an influence in that in honors colleges and programs. However, I think if you could line those things up, tumblers will fall into place on where you go. Does that make sense? And I think that, you know, we require 18 hours for our students to get the honors distinction. That 18 hours can come in different ways. It can be in the UH, the University Honors Curriculum. It can be in colleges and departments have honors courses associated, honors designations associated with their courses. There's multiple different programs to come through, but you gotta figure out what you want, because when guys like me get in front of you, or when Monica gets in front of you to recruit you, have some ideas of what you want and what you're looking for, because there's lots of great places out there. And I know I probably shouldn't say it like that. I mean, I hope that I am being collegial, but we all offer different things. What do you want? How are you going to take advantage of it? In my opinion, you know, the undergraduate research component is a really, really important one, particularly for the students that we are looking at and we're recruiting, and the engaged scholarship, which I think that all three of us share that idea of laying your hands on the curriculum, whether that be an idea at Thanksgiving dinner in your freshman year that you're going to take home and you're going to pilot with Uncle Frank and the family, or literally taking an alternative fuel car for a test drive around the parking lot. And we at our honors college offer both of those things, and we feel like laying your hands on the curriculum is a great way. It's a great way to teach, great way to learn, great way to retain and become that citizen when you graduate. I'll stop there, but I just wanted to add on to what Dr. Butt said, because I thought it was great.
I love that. Thank you. Monica, how about you chime in and tell us what resonates with you, especially as having been a student more recently than all of us in terms of your experience in an honors program?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my perspective is a little bit different because I was a student in the honors program a little bit more recently than maybe my colleagues have been in college. And also I work for our general undergraduate admissions office. So I don't actually work for the honors college, even though I do work directly with them pretty much every single week. So it's a very different setup where most of the time when I'm speaking with a student, I'm speaking to students that they're thinking about adding that honors component to their college experience, but they're not necessarily only talking to me because they want to talk about the honors college. And I think that's something that's really important that both Dr. Butts and Dr. Bryan touched on, is that when you're choosing a school, you are choosing a school because of everything. You're choosing a school because of the campus, the location, the size. And then when you're thinking about honors, the way that I usually frame it when I speak with students is that I would recommend honors, and this probably holds true for most schools to some extent, especially for two types of students or for students that fall into both of these categories. So one is a student that they have very strong professional goals. Maybe they want to go into politics, they want to get a PhD, they want to go to law school. And most of the time an honors college is really going to help set them up for success by allowing them to engage more deeply with academics, but also with research, with mentorship, with advising, with professional advising. So it's something that across the board, it's just going to help set them up for success by developing them to be better set up for that long-term goal. But then also for students that are really academically curious. If a student is sitting down to fill out the application, they're like, oh my gosh, marketing, but also horticulture, and oh my goodness, architecture, those all sound really, really cool. Honors is often going to be a way for them to be able to engage with faculty from different areas across campus, maybe engage with specialized seminar style classes that are going to be on different topics. So that's something that too, honors can be an additional way to engage with those different curiosities that a student has. I think that there's also that really important element that for all three of us, we are pretty decently sized schools. We're not small universities. And so having that opportunity to engage with an honors community, it does help you find your niche a little bit more easily. There's a lot of different opportunities for student mentorship at most schools, but I can also speak to that personal experience that one of my really good friends, still, his name is Joey, and he was a student body president during our time at Clemson. Since then, he's gotten a couple of different major fellowships, a master's from Cambridge. He was a Schwarzman Scholar in China, and now he's working for a company in Munich, and like all of these different things that are just really awesome things to be able to talk to him about those experiences and get advice about. But also on a smaller level, when we were at Clemson together, he just sat me down and talked to me about different clubs and organizations and said, you know, so-and-so that we both know is involved with XYZ, and I think you would really love that too. And so being able to find that niche helps you get set up for success, not just after graduation, but also when you're settling in, maybe when you're a new freshman. And so opportunities like an honors housing community, honors courses, additional honors advising, it's helpful in terms of that overall student development. But then on a much smaller scale, if you're ever struggling with something or something is going on, then you usually also have additional opportunities for people that this is their job, is to help you be successful. And so if you're struggling in a course or with something socially or just getting involved, then you can just reach out and you have so much more additional support that's available to you.
That's terrific. Thank you for sharing that. Let's switch gears a little bit, and I want each of you to, you're sort of headed in that direction, Monica, but I want to hear specifically about your programs. What are sort of the hallmarks at each of your institutions that really set apart the honors program or honors college for students and some of the benefits they get? Like that housing, that's always a popular one for one thing.
Yeah, I was going to jump in and start with that one. We have a residential college associated with our honors college. We have a living learning community embedded within that. I kind of tell people that it's based on the Oxford model of residential colleges, which is you have faculty and residents that live in their families. You have community directors, you have resident advisors, you have upper class mentors from the honors college that live there as well. And it's a true living learning community. If you're not familiar with the Oxford model, I kind of ask people if they're Harry Potter fans at all, and it kind of follows that kind of model with those things. We have an honors year 1 and an honors year 2, a kind of a sophomore year experience is associated with ours. We have in our honors college, we have 7 different programs that are set up. We have a university honors program. Then we have a university fellows experience, a Randall Research Scholars, a Blunt undergraduate initiative, STEM and Create path to MBA, and then something we call the McCullough Scholars, which is for pre-medical students. Some of those are run in conjunction with the honors college, their partner programs. Some of them are cohorts and things like that, but that's the way that we've kind of set up our honors experience, because I think to Monica's point, we are kind of a large institution, you know, and we do not feel at the University of Alabama's Honors College, we don't feel like we want to say no to anybody. We want to say yes to people that want to be involved and engaged engaged in their academic and their social community. In our honors college, we hang our hat, and I think, and I'm hearing elements of this, we hang our hat on access to opportunities and experiential education and engaged scholarship. Those are the big things that we kind of push because, again, best way to teach, best way to learn, best way to retain, best way to make change in the world that we'd like to see. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of ours. Again, we require 18 hours. That 18 hours is in conjunction with the 120 that you usually need for an undergraduate degree, not in addition to. So there are things that will double count. There are things that are part of the core curriculum. There are, different ways to go about that, which will make much more sense when people come to visit a place like us or when they come to orientation. Those things will make more sense, but it's not in addition to, it's in conjunction with your undergraduate degree. How's that? Did you want
That
more?
helps. No, that's good. Thank you. That helps.
Cool.
Dr. Sputz?
I got to be faster on the unmute. So again, very similar. I think that's what's nice about an experience like this is you get to see those nuanced differences too, because I completely agree with what Dr. Bryan was saying earlier. There's so many great programs, and I have friends and colleagues that work at all of them, and it really is about finding the right fit, for the program that matches your goals. So at UConn, we focus on helping students move from consumers of knowledge to producers of knowledge. So really heavy emphasis on creativity, again, talent development. That creative productivity piece is what we're aiming for. All students to complete an honors thesis as part of their UConn honors experience for either award. But the thesis looks completely differently depending on your major, your interests. So there's some students who write a very standard sort of thesis like I did, which was a historical paper, a kind of long paper analysis. And there are other students who build a set for the Connecticut Repertory Theater, and their set design project for one of the Connecticut Reps plays is their honors thesis. Or they synthesize new green chemicals and have scientific papers that are published that becomes their honors thesis. So it's really only limited by the sort of creative scope of students' imaginations and the work and mentorship they get with their faculty, which is, by and large, why students, when they finish honors, say it was one of the most rewarding experiences. So curricularly, we have, I guess I mentioned two different tracks. There's the University Honors Laureate, which is a 30 credit experience and a kind of full honors experience. You're doing honors across the curriculum and in depth in your major. The students also in that experience complete a leadership requirement. It's one of our favorite elements in that we have honors peers who are specially trained to mentor and coach students on their leadership project. And the idea behind this is that students create their own plan to enact leadership in an area, basically in a community of practice, so a community that they're already involved in. And they're thinking very specifically about which of their leadership skills they want to hone and develop better. I mean, we know they're arriving as leaders, that's a standard. So this is really about how do you do that better, and thinking about leadership not in terms of positionality, right? So it could be I'm a member of a research team in a lab, and I want to know how I take on leadership if I'm not the head of the lab, right? And what that looks like. So, or it could be I'm doing an internship this summer for a business in Hartford, and I want to take on a project to recruit more diverse college students into the internship program. And I'm going to build a proposal and a pitch and do that at the end of the summer. So students have so much flexibility within that, but it's really something that students are loving doing, because they really get to focus on enacting change for social good, which is, again, one of our core elements, and get that experience doing that while having a peer coach and a mentor and other people who are helping them be really reflective about that. That's really where the deep learning is, and that reflective practice. So other elements that we also have residential learning communities. We have 4 different honors learning communities that kind of grow with students. All first-year students are required to live in our first-year residential community. So we have 2 residence halls that house that that community that are right next door to each other. They have their own cafeteria. About a third of my staff have their offices in those buildings, so very much a hands-on. They're not living there. I'm sure they feel like they live there sometimes, but very much, you know, run down in your slippers and somebody from honors is there to help you, you know, for any questions, and to be really accessible to students, especially in that first year. But we also have other communities as students, you know, grow, that are suite style housing, and in one of our newest residence halls that's sort of a tower of learning communities, which is really cool. It has a maker space and an innovation zone in the building and all the fun bells and whistles. So lots of opportunities for students to stay and grow in honors housing and continue living with honors peers, or not. You know, they can also go live in other learning communities on campus, because we have, you know, some really fantastic learning communities on campus. We have about 7 honors student organizations that students are part of and take leadership roles in. We have a strong emphasis on peer mentorship as part of our program. So the honors first year seminar that all students have to take is co-taught by 2 sophomore honors students and a faculty member. So they get kind of a really cool intro to a topic of choice that the faculty member is teaching about, in addition to how to transition to college. You know, what is honors about, how to have all your Husky questions answered, you know, by peers who were literally just freshmen the year before, right? So there's a lot of comfort, I think, in, you know, talking to students about their experiences, and that's certainly a hallmark of our program as well. So the only thing I would add to that is we have some fantastic undergraduate research opportunities. So I mentioned at the beginning that I'm part of, I head the enrichment programs unit, which also includes the Office of Undergraduate Research and the Pre-Professional Advising Office, so Med, Dent, Law, the Office of Individualized Major and Interdisciplinary Studies, so students can create their own major at UConn, and if they're members of the University Scholar Program, can actually change undergraduate degree requirements to suit their own creative major compilations. And we also have a fantastic National Scholarships and Fellowships program too. So, you know, helping coach students through everything from the Rhodes, Marshall, Mitchell, Goldwater, all of them, Udall, you name them. We coach them through Fulbrights, all of that as well. So you get the benefit of all of those programs being tied in to the UConn Honors Program, including some really cool special opportunities like the Holster Scholars Program, so students get grants to do research right after freshman year in the honors program. That idea that they talk about over Thanksgiving turns into a proposal, and then they take a class and develop it, and that's really a fantastic opportunity for students, as well as some other specialized programs. We have the Roe Scholars, which are pre-med, kind of pre-health professions programs. So lots of opportunities there, but the undergraduate research piece is something I continue to be really proud of, because we, as an institution, do a lot to support students, both in terms of grants and research opportunities with faculty members to get exposed to research early, and really take advantage of the wonderful mentorship that our faculty provide.
Excellent, thank you.
Sure.
Monica, what would you add from the Clemson experience?
I think I'm a very linear thinker, so I would love to touch a little bit on the beginning and then touch on what it looks like to have membership in our honors college too. So something that's different about the Clemson Honors College versus many across the country is that students are not automatically selected for membership in the Honors College or identified as being essentially eligible to apply. We leave it up to the student that if they would like to apply to the Honors College, then they are welcome to do so. So that's something that's kind of the first distinction I wanted to touch on, is that it is a separate application that students will need to fill out. There's some different pretty basic requirements, and really it's just to look at the perspective that students have. So it's a very straightforward process when students apply. When students come in, we do not have different tiers to our Honors College. Any student who's a member in the Honors College will have complete access to any resource. They're going to be in kind of the same tier across the board. our honors college can accept no more than 10% of the incoming freshman class. So usually they enroll about 350 to 380 students a year. Total honors college membership usually sits right around 1,100 the last time I saw. So our undergraduate student body is right around 20,000. So that is less than that 10%. But overall, it's a pretty tight-knit community because of that. For our residential college, which of course houses our honors living learning community, it is open to students all 4 years of their time at Clemson. So we have that single honors dorm. It has pretty decent capacity. So there's a good number of honors students that will live there. If a student chooses not to live in the honors community their freshman year, totally fine. And they could still choose to live there as a sophomore, junior, senior if they wanted to. But we know especially some students want to live in a different living learning community their freshman year, maybe based on their major and identity that they hold. If they're a first generation college student, they want to live in a community that maybe is targeted a little bit more towards an identity. They want to make sure they have the support in that area specifically. So for our honors residential college, again, like my colleagues were saying, it does house our honors staff. So you have the opportunity to run down in your slippers if you need help with something. We also have faculty in residence. So previously that was the director of our honors college, Dr. Lasser and his wife, Sue. Now we have some younger folks that have moved in because Sue and Dr. Lasser, they have gotten a little bit older and decided that maybe midnight visits from students were not quite what they needed anymore, even though they absolutely love that engagement. They just needed some more sleep. So it's something that across the board, our faculty and residents, they'll have more of that social element especially, but they will also play host when we have maybe some different folks that come on campus, maybe a diplomat, maybe we're hosting a panel of different admissions officers from graduate school. So that's something that they could play a role in that, as well as hosting screenings of, say, ELF around the holidays, or having Girl Scout cookie nights or game nights. So that's something across the board. There's a nice balance of community for students who are living in the honors community, but also students have access to that honors college and the honors center within it at any point during their time at Clemson. So there's going to be classrooms there that a lot of students will have classes there during their time as a student in honors, but there's also study spaces, things like that, different amenities, free printing, free coffee. You cannot underestimate things like free coffee when you're in college. Most students will have a meal plan, but if you are an honors student, even if you don't have a meal plan, you will have guaranteed access to coffee at any point 24/7 as a student, which is critical. And then also when you're a member in the honors college at Clemson, our basic requirement is that you take one honors class per semester. So those honors classes can look very different. They will be targeted generally towards a student's major specifically, but then students can take an honors seminar that could be on a topic like Harry Potter, Disney, Judaism, marketing. So across the board, there are basically special interest classes that students can take that are usually going to be in a much smaller setting than maybe our general class size, which is about 30. So usually those courses will have about 12 to 16 students in them, and there's a really strong component for student engagement. I can also speak personally to the fact that professors will often take advantage of that, maybe by providing food, maybe on a weekly basis. So our professors absolutely love to tap into some of those honors funds by providing things like dinner to students too, which is always really nice. There's also a financial element sometimes to being a member in the honors college that is usually a little bit different than what students make here at other schools. And that's where I do want to emphasize to our students and to our parents too, that whenever you're looking at a school, make sure that you're asking each school the same questions to get those different answers about what does it look like to be a member in XYZ organization or the honors college? What are the financial benefits? Because at Clemson, there are no scholarships associated with membership in the honors college. So when you're in the honors college, you are not automatically going to be getting an honors scholarship. But there are opportunities for things like having funding for unpaid internships, to be able to get conference travel grants. So if you would like to go present at a conference, you can have your flight covered, hotel paid for, the entrance fee for that, your meals covered, things along those lines. And I think the way that our honors college looks at those opportunities is primarily to break down any economic barriers that could be between different students to make sure that every student will have the opportunity to engage with any experience they're really interested in. And I think that's where across the board, you will see that emphasized if you're a student in honors at Clemson is that we want you to be successful at whatever you're doing. So our director of major fellowships, her office is housed within the Honors Residential College, even though students who are in the general student body, not the honor student body, would also have access to her. But of course, even just based on physical location, an honor student would have increased access if they're thinking about applying for a major fellowship. So that's where across the board, our honors college is a way for students to really have some unique fostering of their different interests, talents, abilities based on the mentorship they may need, the courses they would like to take, research. We have two different distinctions for students to graduate with honors besides kind of the general university honors. And those are going to be departmental honors, or they're going to be general honors. So for general honors, that's essentially you've been a membership in the honors college, you've taken some specific courses, you are graduating with general honors. Of course, you've also met all the other requirements, the GPA requirements, involvement, things along those lines. For departmental, that does have more an emphasis on honor-specific research. So that's engaging with research in different areas. I think that Dr. Butts did a great job of talking how research and talking about theses, how they can look very different depending on what department students are in. So there is a student who she graduated from my program, English at Clemson, and her research project was doing a illustrated children's novel. So that's something that's what her research looked like. I also have a good friend, Kate, who she's getting her PhD at Johns Hopkins right now in neuroscience. Her research looked very different. So that's something that across the board, it does look very different. And students who are not in the honors community or who are in the honors community, but are not participating with departmental specific research, do have the opportunity to be in funded research programs from their freshman year onwards. But of course, when you're with the honors program, you have an additional opportunity potentially to access different labs because professors know the caliber of student that you are, but then also potentially for additional funding opportunities and for engagement in areas that maybe you would not have heard about otherwise. So hopefully that's a good overview.
Yes, excellent. Thank you. You touched on a point that I actually was going to ask as a follow-up question, so maybe the other two can touch on this, is the scholarship piece. Are there any specific scholarships tied to honors at either UConn or Alabama?
So the scholarship package at the University of Alabama is like embarrassingly robust. It's pretty tough to beat the scholarship. I would encourage people to take a look at it. As it relates to the Honors College specifically, we have because so much of our scholarship dollars at the University of Alabama is front loaded in that freshman year, the Honors College looks at the money that they have for undergraduate research, engaged scholarship, and study abroad. That's generally what we leave our scholarship dollars for, and those are eligible. Students are eligible for those after their first semester in their freshman year. But that's generally speaking what we use our scholarship dollars for. Also, first generation and students of color, we have set aside some money for students for those particular populations to fund, again, undergraduate research, study abroad, and engaged scholarship.
Yeah, and at UConn, so students all of the scholarships are actually controlled through admissions and financial aid. So we do have some honor-specific scholarships that students can apply for later to cover additional expenses. Any student that's a valedictorian or a salutatorian is automatically offered a presidential scholarship at UConn, which means that in addition to the scholarship itself, they get a $2,500 enrichment award. So they can use that however they want to fund summer research, to study abroad. Students use it for unpaid or low-paying internships to kind of, provide a stipend for themselves. A lot of students use it multiple times. So they use multiple iterations to do things like alternative spring breaks and going to do volunteer work. Our honors alternative spring break group traditionally does Habitat for Humanity, and they go someplace south, someplace warm, away from snowy stores. But there are lots of opportunities to use that award for those students. We also have some scholarship programs focused on focused on STEM scholars, so students who are in the STEM fields in particular, and those are can be really lucrative scholarships, especially for out-of-state students. So the nice part about it, the scholarships kind of being run by admissions is it's totally separate and independent from you being in honors. So that part is really kind of done as UConn's investment in the student's education. And then, much like Monica was describing, the sort of additional pieces are the things that honors does on top of that. So the additional grants that students can apply for, we generally give out about $600,000 a year in student grants to support undergraduate research, creative scholarship, and that doesn't count the additional scholarships and honors or supporting things like students traveling abroad, or so, we have had instances recently, actually, where we've had students in severe financial crisis, and we have a fund that's managed through the Dean of Students office called the Students First Fund that assists with students who need, kind of emergency help and support. And so honors partners with that office to assist as well. So when we've had students who really, especially in this last year, have met with dire financial circumstances, we've been able to thanks to our generous donors and our foundation accounts, really dip into some of those kind of emergency funds, if that makes sense too. So lots of good support in that regard.
In general, and I hope that's
Yeah.
part of what families take away from this information, is that the level of support amps up, especially when you're in these bigger institutions and you have a lot more eyes and hands on your student when they are there. It certainly feels like. I know Dr. Bryan's got to teach a class pretty soon. I have one other quick question, just the mechanics of applying. Monica touched on what you do at Clemson. It's completely separate. Students need to seek that out. Can you two touch on Alabama and UConn on that topic real quickly?
Ours is as well. So you apply to the University of Alabama, and then you apply through your what's called a MyBama portal to the Honors College. It's really simple, really easy. Sounds very, very similar to what Clemson's doing. And then you are automatically put in the pipeline for scholarships and things like that when you apply to the university.
So I win the no additional homework award for applications, and that every undergraduate application to UConn is screened for honors. So we work with the admissions staff to work on a holistic review of applications. So what are we really looking for in terms of those students who are looking for an honors educational experience? UConn is in a test optional pilot for this year and the next 2 years. So I was at a presentation last week, and about 60% of the students who have applied in this current cycle did not submit a test. So I think it's fantastic. I am super excited about this because what we know in honors is your SAT score or your ACT score has absolutely zero predictive ability in terms of your success in honors. What does matter actually is your grade point, your high school grade point. Kind of how you performed in high school does tend to be a predictor of how well you'll perform in honors at UConn. But we also have like a 97% retention rate to honors from first year to second year. So we're UConn has a very strong retention rate in general, but honors tends to be even higher than that. So you don't have to do anything other than submit your application to UConn, and multiple humans put multiple eyeballs on it and are really thinking about that. So in addition, as I mentioned earlier, if students are not invited to the honors program, when they get their acceptance letter, it all comes together in a package. Here's your acceptance letter, here's your scholarship offer. You get sort of everything at once from UConn, which is great. Then there are multiple opportunities to continue to apply for honors. So students can apply as rising sophomores or rising juniors. You can complete any of the awards in the program at any entry point. And so we're always really happy to look for talented students. And if they want an honors education at UConn, we'll find a way to make sure that they get one.
Okay, again, in the interest of time, any last minute parting shots that we need to throw out to the audience before we let Dr. Bryan go teach? That's the joy of what you do. You get to wear so many different hats, but it means you've got to be different places at different times. So take it away if there's any last minute thoughts to share, and then I'll wrap it up after that.
I think I would say roll tide. I think that In all seriousness, seriously, Roll Tide, I'm working on it. But I would say that, here at the University of Alabama and Honors College, we really function like a small, tailored, targeted, I think, experience, a small college experience embedded in a large public flagship that gives us a ton of opportunities. It gives our students a ton of opportunities. I don't think that's too different than what we're talking about today as it relates to the other institutions. So I think that's a good thing. I'm a competitive guy. I like to win stuff, and I have recruitment in my portfolio, and I like to recruit. It's weird how I feel like, if you come here, then I win somehow. But in seriousness, I don't compare myself, and this is not to be offensive to anybody. Usually, I am not comparing myself. If I lose to a student or a student goes somewhere else, or it's not that I am competing against LSU or the University of Georgia or Vanderbilt, really even. That's not generally who I'm competing with for students' attention. I'm generally competing against Rice, Tulane, Emory. I hate to admit it, Duke, because I'm a Carolina guy, WashU, places like that. That's generally who I'm competing with, that small, tailored, targeted. And in that way, I think places like ours at the University of Alabama and places like ours, the people on this panel, are a best of both worlds kind of situation for our students. And so I think that is not to say that I don't compete against UConn or Clemson. I just mean that generally speaking, people are looking for one or the other. And I think in that way, the honors college that we're talking about is a really, really nice kind of hybrid for some things. So that's probably what I would, in addition to all the other things that we've said, in addition to all the other things like figure out why you're going and what you want. Oh, by the way, we have the greatest scholarship package known to man. Oh, by the way, I don't know what I have to do for a living to reach the standard of living in our residence halls here at the University of Alabama. We have a lazy river in our pool. We have fields that are like pillows when you land on them. Oh, we have a pretty good football team. Like these are all things. What do you want? And I think in that way, folks like us and programs and colleges like that we're a part of have developed a really nice little niche for our students and the students that we're recruiting. So I'm delighted to be a part of the panel. I'm going to have to, unfortunately, excuse myself. Thank you so much, colleagues. I really appreciate it. Rasaja, I really appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
So much. Appreciate it.
And Roll Tide.
Yes.
See ya.
Thank you. Monica, anything else from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think Dr. Bryan touching on the best of both worlds is a really important thing. I would strongly encourage almost any student who's looking at a school who's academically competitive, who is strongly committed to exploring their academics, especially because it's not just about academics in terms of classes and the grades that you're making, it's about engaging with your learning on a deeper level. So for students who that is something they're passionate about, I would encourage them to consider the honors program at any school they're looking at that has one. Along those lines, if a student is not academically competitive, maybe enough to meet a minimum threshold, if a school does have a minimum threshold, I know for us, we typically recommend that students have above a 3.7 unweighted GPA. And then for test scores, we like to see above a 1380 or 30 in years when we do require them. So that's something that if a student is a little bit nervous about those numbers, or maybe they know that they're not going to meet them, then I'd recommend that they speak to the honors college they're thinking about applying to, and then also know that they can usually apply after they start at a school as well. But I think the ultimate takeaway that I would recommend students have, and maybe this is just loyal to our topic, is that the student is the most important part of the college process. It doesn't matter if you get accepted to every single school that you apply to and you are accepted to 100 schools. The school saying yes to you is part of that, but a student saying yes to the school is the bigger part. And I think students a lot of times forget that they're not thinking about what do I want, because they're not thinking about the fact that even weather can play a really big role in that college experience. If a student goes to UConn, they're probably going to need to bring a puffer jacket and prepare for some snow. And that for some students, they're going to love that, or at least it's normal to them. And every other part of that experience of being a Husky, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, it's so worth it. For some students, they're going to say, if it gets below 30 degrees, I will actually die. And so even weather, but also college style, college campus style, whether they're in a suburban or an urban area or rural area, those can all play really big parts in that college experience and whether a student is going to be able to be successful. So I think when students are looking at schools, thinking about what is most important to me, is it the size of the school? Is it the school spirit? What does it look like at a school? So I know for me, I chose Clemson in part because it is a medium-sized school in a beautiful location that had a really, really strong school spirit. And I chose to come to Clemson when we were not winning very often, but I saw that everybody was out tailgating, and whenever you walked by, people were like, have you eaten today? Can I get you something to drink? Do you want tea? We have unsweetened and sweetened. Do you want like that type of environment where everyone who is at Clemson, they want students to do well. Other students want you to do well. The faculty, the staff, every single person who's on this campus is invested in the overall success of the Clemson family. So I think that when students are looking at different schools, making sure that they're taking themselves into account, not just, oh, well, that school has a better ranking in this specific area, because it could be that school is not going to be a good fit for you based on the fit factors that you have as an individual. So one of my biggest things is I always recommend that students remember that they are the most important part of the college admissions process, because they can get into the #1 school in the country, and if it's not a good fit for them, then it's not a good fit for them, and that's okay, because they should be happy and successful no matter where they are.
That's some great advice. Thank you.
Yeah. I would just add, I mean, Monica and I think give the same speech, it sounds like, because I talk about fit all the time. You know, I say to students when I'm talking to prospective students that, you know, putting your feet on a campus is really important to get the kind of vibe and the feel for what that campus is going to be like. I think we have to be realistic right now and know that, like, that's not happening for a lot of students. So what do you do instead? There are so many programs right now that are happening on college campuses that are taking place virtually and are just open to the public. So go to a lecture, you know, watch something. I always want prospective students to meet with our current students. So we actually have an entire student organization that's built for prospective students. So if you want to meet with a current UConn Husky that's in your major or in an interest area, we've got people that will do that, you know, that will sit down and meet with you virtually and talk to you about why they love UConn and what the campus is like, you know, for them. Because you know, I say to students, you can get a great education anywhere, because the key to getting a great education is you. You know, it's what you put into it and what you get out of it, and really being at a place where you want to dive in, you want to experience things and participate. We get students from all over the country, and you know, I know we had 2 football schools here, but also we're the basketball capital of the universe. So if basketball's your sport, then, you know, we're the place to be. So, you know, whatever it is, like the immense school spirit, I completely agree. It's why I've always gravitated, frankly, to like public flagship institutions and honors programs there, because you get that kind of best of both world experience in that regard too. So talk to current students. Go and my other piece of advice is, like, pick up a school newspaper. I think you learn so much about a school by picking up their school newspaper. Again, everything's online, so just go online and, you know, figure out, like, what are people talking about? What's the vibe of the student body? You know, what do they care about? You know, every school is going to have its own sort of focus. I mean, UConn is a very activist-oriented school, like most schools in New England, and so there's a lot of really great leadership done by students around issues like racial injustice and sustainability, and, you know, the things that I think we all feel are currently, you know, kind of big problems that we need to spend time and tackle. And so, you know, understanding like what that campus cares about, I think, is also really, really important.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Again, all great advice. And I think that you know, I definitely preach fit in so many different ways in the work that I do. I always have when I was a school-based counselor. I always have when I was on the college side too. It is important that one size does not fit all. And that's why we have so many different opportunities out there for students and families. And this has been illuminating for me, actually, just in terms of thinking through some different questions to ask about honors programs and helping guide my students to think about what they should be looking for, thinking about the nuances within each of those different types of programs. So again, thank you both so very much for joining me here today and meeting in this virtual format. I hope that the world clears up soon and I can get on. I've been on Clemson's campus multiple times, but I've only been to UConn once, so I hope to get back out there and start visiting schools again. It's the thing I might miss the most right now in terms of my work.
Well, we'd love to have you and see proof that it is sunny in Connecticut.
Yes,
Like I keep having to dodge the sunlight. So
I have full faith it gets sunny, but I know that we've had a couple students who they've walked in and they said, I'm from the South. I went up and I decided to go to like Boston College or something. And the first time they walked outside and slipped on the ice, they said, time to transfer.
yeah, see, it's all about the equipment. Yes, you need your puffer jacket. You also need yak tracks. That's it. Then you're good.
Oh my gosh.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to know.
All the things you have to prepare for.
Before we run out, do your attendees have any questions that they may want to ask?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Folks, you can certainly raise your hand. I can let you talk, or you can just type it in the Q&A and the panelists and I can see. We've been so thorough that we've covered everything today. So, but I also, as you know, I make this recording available to many more people, and sometimes there are email questions that come in after that. And if you panelists don't mind, I will certainly forward on questions to you. Monica, thanks for sharing your email address, and I'll make sure that we share some contact information as well.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all. Everybody have a wonderful day. Enjoy the sunshine wherever you may be, and hopefully maybe spring will be here before how much longer does it take? A few more months, I guess, in the Northeast.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching this recording of Coffee with Kim. I hope that it gave you some great insights into honors programs and some of the differences and distinctions that exist between them all. Remember, do your research, reach out to the folks in the honors programs at the schools that you're interested in. They each have contact information and different ways to engage with them via their websites. Ask questions, ask things that are important to you so that you are distinguishing between the different types of programs and what's going to be available for you. I hope that the takeaway is that you find that there are lots of opportunities and they provide a lot of support and a lot of amazing ways to enhance your undergraduate education. I also hope that you'll plan to join us next month. We're going to be talking about standardized testing. There are some changes afoot and other things are happening on that front. We're also going to spend some time focused on standardized testing for students with learning differences, specifically ADHD, and applying for accommodations. So it will encompass a variety of topics under that umbrella of standardized testing. Hope to see you then. Take care.